Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to work on Adagio and Allegro from the Sonata in E minor by Marcello. This one's going to be super interesting. This one is significantly slower than what we have been playing. We've been doing medium speed and some faster stuff, but we haven't really gotten into the slow stuff. So let's go ahead and start breaking this down, and then we will take a look at what we have. So we're going to look at the first two measures, and then we will roll from there. So for reference, I am running at about 64 BPM. It sounds like this. And then we'll go ahead and start the first two measures. So 1, 2, 3. We are not moving quickly. Looks like there's a whole bunch of ink on the page. Everything looks like it's super fast and super involved. It's really nice and slow. One of the first things, we have a turn in measure 2 over that D sharp. So that is just, it's kind of like a trill, but it's only a single trill. So let's go ahead and run that one more time. Fingering is as it comes, and then we don't really have any strange bowing stuff going on. So go ahead and join me. 1, 2, 3. One more time, and then we'll move on from there. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next section is going to be kind of interesting. We've got some bowing stuff. And then we've got some interesting fingerings. So we're going to start in fourth position, well, fourth-ish position. So that's where we're at. Usually to make sure that my fingering is in the right position, I'll play the second finger on the D, matching with the A. And then the fourth finger, fourth, second, first, second, fourth. First, second, fourth, first. And then back to first position. And then it's a double up bow there, so we have an open A matching with an open A. Open A on the fourth. Back to first position. Double up bow. So one more time. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead. 1, 2, 3. Measure 3. Let's go ahead and work on the second half of that. So we're back in first position, starting in that high D. Just so we can get that. So we can get that shift in, because that one's going to be important. So starting at that, starting at the midway point of measure 3, 3, 4. So we'll just play that a couple of times just to get that shift from first position to fourth finger on the A down. Actually, it'd be 1, 2, and then start. My apologies. So 1, 2. One more time. 1, 2. Okay. So let's go ahead and work on pick up to measure 3 through measure 5, the halfway point of measure 5. So 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 3. And just keep in mind, under those slurred notes, you do have an accent note there. So you're going to want to bring out those second notes in the slurs. You are not going to want to be like super crunchy with it, but you're going to want to bring them out a little bit. So you're not looking for... You're looking for something more along the lines of... that fits with the tonality. So yeah, something to keep in mind. So moving forward from there, let's just go ahead and play that next section, and then we will figure out where the stopping point is. So moving forward from there, we will be starting with an up bow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll go ahead and stop on the first note in measure 7. So we're just going to do pick up to 6 through first note in 7, and then we'll break it there. So we do have some interesting fingering going on here. It should be first position, and then you're shifting to second finger on where your fourth would normally be. Keep in mind that is a low 1, so it's a full step back, not a half step. And then fourth, and then back to second. When you drop a string, it'll be a half step back, not a full step, because that's an F sharp. And then shifting up to the fourth. They have it as 2 shifts in a row, so... I just don't like 2 shifts in a row, especially on fourth finger, because it's a little shaky, but since that's what is written, we should go with that. So, we'll go ahead and do pick up to measure 6 through first note in 7. Go ahead and join me. 1, 2, 3. Moving moving forward from, let's do that one more time and then we'll move forward. So, same place. Pick up to 6 through first note in 7. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Moving forward from there, we have a trill on the second note in 7, and then it gets a little funky. So this is going to be what we're looking at. So we've got a couple of shifts, and then we've got something that we haven't run across before. This is the marking for a harmonic. There's 2 ways to do it. One of them is with 2 fingerings, like this, because you have a 3 over a not quite a 0, it's a circle. That is basically, you find where the 4th finger, or where the D octave is. And then you just set your finger on the string. You do not press it down to the board. You just hold it right there, and you play it, and it will be the octave of the D string. It's kind of funky. However, it's super, super handy because you should be playing as in tune as best you're possible, or best you're able. This is kind of a cheat, though. You can just set your 3rd finger up there, and even if you're not exactly on, it'll still ring like it's supposed to. You can't be horribly far off, but that note, when it is pressed, is the same as the 4th finger on the D. And when you don't pin it to the board, it has the capacity to ring for a whole lot longer, and it gives you kind of this light, ethereal feel. So, moving back from there, we will do the last note in 6, and then through the first chunk of notes in 8. So, this is what it's going to be. So you've got the false harmonic, or no, you've got the real harmonic. 4th finger, shift down to the B. Okay, so that's what your fingering is going to be. It's a little dicey. There's a double shift there. Not my favorite, but it is functional because it sets you up for being able to go down to the G on your 1st finger on the last note of the first set of notes in measure 8. My apologies, these descriptions are ridiculous. Without having to shift in the middle of doing all of that, which can also be problematic. So, last note in 6. Go ahead and join me. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. And then this leaves you set up for the next chunk of notes there. Tail end of 8 into the first note in 9. So just running that section is going to be just starting in 4th position. Yeah, let's go ahead and hammer that a few times, and then we'll tie everything back in because we've gone through a lot at this point. So, halfway through measure 8 into the first note in 9. 1, 2. One more time. Okay, so let's go ahead and back up back to the beginning, and we will run this through till there, because we're at about the halfway point. 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and do that a couple of more times, just to make sure that we are in the right place. So go ahead and join me back at the beginning. 1, 2, 3. So we have a little bit more of this, more of the related elements that we have done before. This section has some interesting rising sections with some arpeggiated kind of falls. It's going to sound like this. And that's going to be the next section that we work on. So let's go ahead and do the second chunk of measure 9 through the halfway mark of measure 11. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. The only weird fingerings are going to be in the beginning of 10 when you've got a shift and then another shift and then back into first position. So let's take a look at measure 10 first. We're going to be starting in first position, going into about 5th position with a couple of shifts. So just the first half of measure 10. Starting in first position. Go ahead and join me on that. So we will be second finger, first position, second finger open, 5th-ish position, 4th finger on the B, first finger on the G sharp, second finger on the A, shifting up to hit that C with your 4th finger on the D string, back into first position. So let's do just the first half at 10 a couple of times. So first position, almost 5th, 5th position, first position. So we'll do that a couple of times. Go ahead and join me. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. One last time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go ahead and do tail end of 9 into where we just stopped. So, 1, 2, da, 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 da. So, it'll be 1, 2, then I'll start. So, 1, 2. Okay, one more time. 1, 2. One last time. 1, 2. And then moving on from there, second half of 10 into first half of 11. Second half of 10 into first half of 11 sounds like this. So we've got first position for the notes moving up. And then we're shifting into fifth position. Shifting down a little bit. And then shifting into half position. So second half of 10 into first half of 11. 1, 2. One more time. 1, 2. One last time. 1, 2. Okay, and then moving forward from here, we have a trill 2 to 4, and then it'll be 1, 2, 4. With a shift to position the third finger onto the second, so. Okay. So let's go ahead and run second half of 10 into first half of 11 one more time, and then we'll move on from there. So one of the other things that you might have noticed is I'm still counting off, but I'm coming in different positions. In this case, I am counting off 1, 2, coming in on 3, because the measure, we're skipping the first 2 beats and then coming in on the third, so that's the 1, 2 start. In an earlier position, we were coming in on a weird kind of place, because it wasn't 1, 2, we were coming in on like 1, 2, and da, 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 da. So that's one of the things that I do with the counting that is also really, really common in like quartets and like larger ensemble kind of pieces as well, is instead of starting at the measure line, which might be in a really weird position or kind of a weird thing, or in the middle of a run, which can also be very hard to do, they'll count off and just be tacit, silent during that section, and then come in when come in on the beat indicated. So that's why the counting can occasionally be off, just for future reference. So let's go ahead and come in second half of 10, and then we'll do that first half of 11. So it'll be 1, 2, start. So 1, 2. One last time, and then we'll move on. 1, 2. Okay, so we have our second finger where our first finger normally is, half position, and then we are going to be trilling to our fourth finger, shifting up to our third finger, so full first position, still trilling on the fourth, shifting up to fourth position where our second finger is under, our second finger is where our fourth finger would be. Shifting there isn't really necessary because we're still keeping that fourth finger. So let's go ahead and do second half of 11 through first note in 13. So starting in half position, go ahead and join me. 1, 2. Let's go ahead and do that one more time, and then we'll get into the held note there and kind of we'll get into some other stuff. So, starting second half of 11, 1, 2. Once more, and then we will probably go back and combine all of that. So, half position, second half of 11, 1, 2. Okay, so first note in 13. Actually, let's go back and we'll start in 9, and then we'll roll forward. So that first note after the break, so second note of 9, we're going to start with an up bow. So starting up bow, second note in 9, we'll go ahead and play through to the first note in 13. So go ahead and join me. 1, so this will be 1, 2, da 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 da. So 1, 2, start, kind of a deal. So 1, 2. So it's not tacit. What word am I looking for? Not tenuto. It's not sostenuto. For some reason, the marking over the first note in 13 is absolutely evading my mind right now. The dot with a curve over the top of it basically means that you hold it for longer than you hold it for longer than the written duration. So that is going to be kind of funky because this is kind of a building, like a tension point in the piece. And with that particular marking, you can hold it for as long as you need. Now, normally you're not going to want to go, the normal rule is longer than normal, but not more than 1.5 times the typical value of that note. So we're going to hold it a little bit longer, and then we'll come back in for the rest of this. But that is something to keep in mind. That is a point that is written in the music for artistic license and artistic expression. So let's go ahead and do that chunk again, and then we'll back up to the beginning and we'll run everything up to the first note in 13. So starting in not quite the second half of 9. Yep. Go ahead and join me. 1, 2. So that's what we're looking for. Let's go ahead and hop back to the beginning and then run that to that point that we just stopped at, and then we will finish out the last of the piece. So starting at the beginning, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the last part of the line, nothing terribly out of the ordinary, but still something that we need to take a look at. So we're starting in roughly 4th position. Hey, Kit Kat, cut this. Kit Kat, no, I can't right now. Kitty Cat. So, starting at the right after where we stopped, starting right after where we stopped, it's going to be relatively straightforward. We do have a shift back into half position, so it'll be something like this. So again, this is very slow, very meaningful. This piece has, at least to me, a sense of depth to it that is not something we've worked on before. It has a sense of gravitas. So let's go ahead and start in the second-ish half of 13, and then we will run from there. So starting in not quite 4th position, go ahead and join me. And how am I going to count that? 1, 2. So it'll be 1, 2. So we've got 1, 2, 3 shifts in a row right there. Just keep that in mind. Let's walk through that real quick. So starting in not quite fourth position. We have 4, 2, 1, back to first position, to half position, to not quite fourth position. So again, that is shift, shift, shift. One last time. Shift, shift, shift. So let's go ahead and work on that real quick. Just ending on that G in the first note in measure 14. 1, 2. Do that again, since we're right back in the same place where we started. 1, 2. One last time. 1, 2. And then moving on from there, staying in the same place. Shift. Shift. Back to half position. So they don't have this, they don't have the shift back to half position marked. I guess you could do that in first position and just reach back for that. That'd probably be the wiser move. My apologies, considering fingering different fingerings and different positionings for the hand, just so that you don't have to move as much. Let's go ahead and do that in first position, just so you don't have to move. So, second beat of measure 14, we are... Actually, let's just start in measure 14. So we're starting on a second finger, trilling on a first, shifting back to a first finger, first position, third finger, low 1, third, first, regular first finger, third, fourth finger, third finger, first. Yeah, let's go ahead and play that in first position. So, starting first note in 14, let's go ahead and do that to the end. Go ahead and join me. 1, 2, 3. So we definitely lost time second half of 13, 14, second half of 15. It does have a retard over that G there, which is going to be very important. It's going to give a sense of ending, a sense of wrapping everything up, and especially with a piano accompaniment that this is played with, it's fun. So let's do that one more time. Oh, the other thing that I was wanting to say is that trill right before the end there. Pacing and how fast you do it can change the feel of what's going on. As opposed to you see the different feel, the different kind of color flavor there. So starting off slow and then speeding up and then slowing back down before you make that bow change can do wonderful things. So let's go ahead and play those last 1, 2, 3 measures. Starting in 14. we will be in second position, my apologies, and we will run this to the end and then we'll tie everything up. So, 14 to the end. 1, 2, 3. And then usually I'll taper off to like pianissimo, then just fade out. So let's go ahead and wrap this entire thing up, and then we will be able to move forward from there. Okay, beginning to the end, let's double check the tempo. We might have been going a little bit too fast, my apologies. Okay, starting at the beginning, all the way through. 1, 2, 3. So, this one definitely has some gravitas to it. This isn't the type of thing that you get done and you're all peppy and happy and bouncy and want to go take with the world. This is definitely something that, at least for me, makes me kind of stop and slow down and think about things. I wouldn't say that it's morose, but it's definitely reflective. It's definitely slower and stately. And at least for me, it just kind of makes me slow down and think. So the mental the mental paradigm with which you approach music can definitely influence and affect how you play. In a number of the pieces that I worked on during college, I would have, so you would have the name of the piece and the movement and all that information underneath, and then you would have the composer and their dates and all that kind of fun stuff. But I would have one or two words written in big script up at the top to kind of like set the tone, set the where I needed to be mentally to really have that piece be able to be interpreted to the best of my ability. And that, I think, is super important. In this case, you can try to play it with a bit of a happy or peppy thing, paradigm, mental place, whatever, but you're moving too slow for it to be really super happy. B, you're in a minor key, and it just, this piece is coming from a different part of the soul than most everything else that we've worked on. And I think that needs to be reflected during the playing and the interpretation of it, because if you're happy and bouncy and all that kind of stuff, it'll come through in the music. And this is, at least in my estimation, not really the place for that. So the framework and the place from which you approach the music, I think, is definitely something that isn't terribly talked about, because a lot of people focus on the technical ability, on the execution of the trills, the bowings, the slurs, and how everything is slurred and played together and that kind of thing. And like, yes, that's definitely part of it, but music is not just the technical aptitude. And this, I think, is one of the first pieces that we've run across in this particular vein that needs to be approached from a different mental standpoint. This isn't just an etude working on technical ability. This isn't a happy or bouncy song. This isn't a quick thing. This is something slow that needs to be treated with a different type of respect. And hopefully I've conveyed that. I'm not sure that's come across, but in my estimation, that is one of the other big things that doesn't get talked about a lot, that really can improve somebody's performance abilities across the gamut. If it needs to be happy and bouncy, it needs to be happy and bouncy. If it's an Irish jig, if it's dance music, if it's something that you're doing in that vein, it has a completely different paradigm with which you approach it than something like this. So at this point, I might be waxing a bit too philosophical about 5 lines of music, but I think it's important, and I think it's something that isn't really discussed as much. At least when I was in school, it wasn't terribly discussed very much, because everybody was focusing on the nuts and the bolts, and they had kind of a tendency to get lost in the forest, and they couldn't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate, and y'all take care and have fun practicing. This is a heck of a piece, and getting it down to the point where it's performance ready is definitely a thing. So, especially with that slower tempo. That slower tempo is also murder. So, well, y'all take care, enjoy your practicing, and I will catch you all next time. Take care.